right, thank you so much for making time for the program. It is Debate 411. And of course, my name as always is Eugene Anangwe. Every Mondays and Wednesdays we're here, and of course with one particular aim of moving conversations forward on various issues that affect us in one way or another. Of course, you can be part of the program, and it's pretty simple. You can tweet us at Debate411, and the hashtag is Debate411. You can also tweet me directly at Eugene Anangwe, and let's get this conversation started. Today on the program, every year on such a day, the world all over is marking the International Forest Day, and the following day is usually the World Water Day. And today, our focus is on the role of these forests in giving us essential livelihood. Of course, that's the focus, and we understand that over 30% of the world's forests have been depleted, and the question is, how do we restore that? We have had commitments, and those commitments include the Bonn Challenge, where world leaders all over committed to restoring the forests, and we'll focus on that and find out how far we are, because the target is 2020, that is the year 2020. And of course, in the program with me, let me introduce our panelists. We have Honorable Jessica Erio, who's the Deputy Secretary General of the East African Community, to just give us a regional perspective on this conversation. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Also with us is none other than Mr. Luther, who is the Regional Director, IUC. And thank you, Luther, for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, and good evening, viewers.
Thank you. And also with us in the program is Mr. Kavarisa Vedast, who is the Deputy Director General, Integrated Water Resources Management
Sorry, it's Vincent Paul Kabalisa.
Vincent, we had to make these changes later, but of course, thank you so much for joining us on the program. You're representing RNRA, right?
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm head of Water Resources Department.
Thank you.
Yes.
So Amazi will focus on the role of the forest in giving us water. Sure. And of course, with us also is our good friend right here, who's also joining us from IUCN, and it's none other than who's this? Let me just Stewart. I don't know why your name has just disappeared. It's because maybe we've been together the whole day and just runs away. Stewart, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
You gave us great points earlier on today on this whole particular topic. But of course, today on the program, let's now look at the moving forward of this particular topic. Now, what is the current situation? Because if we're talking about the Bonn Challenge and the commitments that have been made, it's important for us to understand how bad the situation is for us to sit back and say it should no longer be business as usual when it comes to issues of forest restorations. And let's see if we can start from home.
Okay, maybe I will just not talk too much on Bonn, but yes. What I can say is what I see on the ground.
Yes.
So what I see on the ground, there is a lot of siltation on our rivers, which is an indication of our efforts in terms of what we are doing to protect our rivers. So I think despite that Bonn, we still need to see more action and see how we can change our stability of our rivers.
Yeah. Yeah. When we say we still need to see more action, what do you really mean in terms of action?
Yes, I mean in terms of protecting, in terms of looking at how we can reduce the siltation of our rivers, we need to see a lot of afforestation. So we need to see really serious actions in terms of our catchments. Like what we said this morning, there was a visit on one of the river on Seveya, which is completely degraded with the lot of activities upstream. And one of the issues is, of course, the deforestation. So there are commitments, there is Bonn commitments. What is on the ground in terms of implementation of that agreement? We need to see more action. That's why we need to see more action in terms of afforestation, in terms of sustaining, making sure that our rivers are really clean.
From the statements that he's making, he doesn't seem to be really impressed at the pace of things and how things are being done. When you say we need to really see this, from who, by who?
Of course, all of us, there is a commitment at the highest level, at the international level, but in the community, what should we do? what actions should need to be done to make sure that we really contribute in terms of sustaining our ecosystem,
Yeah.
especially upstream. How do we engage the various players
Yeah.
and make sure we really plant more trees? This is what
We need to
which we need to see seriously.
Right, thank
Yeah.
you. We'll be bringing in the international community and the role, but before we go there, let's go to the region, Honorable Erio, because he says that we need to see from the highest level, we need to see, and of course the other we need to see should be on the regional level in terms of commitments and deliberations. Do you agree that there have been less efforts in, solving that we need to see answer that he's raising here?
Thank you very much, Eugene. I think, first of all, the problem is real.
Mhm.
It's with us. We need to understand the drivers of deforestation, and as deforestation results into so many other problems. But initially, the underlying problems are clearing the forests for agricultural purposes, because most of our people depend on agriculture, and the population is increasing, and people are clearing more and more forests. Then also, soil fertility is reducing, so people want to go into more virgin land so that the productivity is a bit higher, but that is not sustainable. Then we have other activities, including infrastructure development, mining, and a number of activities that cause deforestation. But also, we know that climate change has an impact on our agricultural activities, because rainfalls are now more erratic and so forth. So because of climate change, productivity has gone a bit low, and so people clear more of the forests. But also people clear forests for charcoal, for wood fuel, because most of our people use wood fuel. People also clear the forests for timber. There is a lot of demand for timber. Construction is going high. People are exporting timber and so forth. So people are clearing the forest without thinking about sustainability, about tomorrow. So these problems are real. But also because most of our people are still a little bit relatively poor, so they depend more on these forestry products. And once they have cleared, restoring becomes a problem. You know that forests take many years to restore. And that's a big challenge for us. So at a regional level, we've worked together with the different partner states to address the deforestation rates, which are between 55,000 to 70,000 hectares of forests per annum within the region. 55,000 to 70,000 hectares. That's a very high rate that we really need to bring down. So
but still, before you take it even further, because what I'm trying to see is a picture of what we would like the populations to do, but we have another picture of them living a realistic situation. They need to sustain their lives, they need to pay their bills, they need to eat food. And here we are saying that stop cutting that tree that provides you charcoal to make your food or provides you an income when you sell it. And now we are telling them, stop doing that. But what alternatives are we giving them?
First of all, tree planting in itself is a business. So if we can encourage more people to plant trees, fast-growing trees that they can actually sell to the market. Secondly, they have to improve on their agricultural practices so that productivity is a bit higher, and also get involved in agroforestry, so that you plant your crops, but also you have the trees. And as the trees grow, they need to prune these trees and use the prunings for firewood, rather than just cutting the whole tree down. Because when you cut the whole tree down, you leave other parts of the tree wasted. But if you cut just a branch of the tree today, a branch of another tree, you can still keep this tree for some time. And you use that. So people need to understand the sustainable ways of managing these forests. But also they can be involved in other alternative activities, like beekeeping, like medicinal extraction from the forest, like tourism, ecotourism in those forests, and therefore they will be able to have sustainable livelihoods. But also people can go into protection of the forests and be able to receive some funds through the payments for ecosystem services, because there are some fundings that are available,
Yeah.
but people do not know how to access them.
To access those
But
funds.
also, these funds have a lot of criteria that you need to follow
Yeah.
before you can access
you can
them.
get it.
Yes, so the alternatives are there.
Yeah.
We only need to make this aware, create awareness and bring people on board, and they need to understand, first of all, the value of the forests.
Yeah.
Because if they do not understand the value
Then
of the
everything
forest,
else.
for them what they know is I cut down the tree, make my money today, tomorrow there will be other trees.
to cut
And yet
down.
they wake up to realize
There's
there are
none.
no more trees.
Right. The alternatives are there, Luther. She says, we have funding for those who are, maintaining forests or keeping these trees. And the issue of lack of awareness is part of the problem, according to Honorable Jessica here. Where else do you feel we are getting things wrong? When she says the alternatives are there, but the reality on the ground is we have depletion going on. We have trees being cut down. We have people not understanding the importance of these trees. So where are we going wrong? If we really already have the alternatives, what are we doing wrong?
Thank you very much. I think there are definitely many places where we go wrong, but one of the main ones is the fact that we do not have the information. It's ordinarily we don't link, for example, forests with our other livelihoods or with things like water or with things like our well-being. We just look at forests as a source for us to use to meet other needs. So, for example, as Honorable has already mentioned, we use for building, we use for charcoal, we use for consumption. But we don't see that the forest by itself is actually of great value in terms of protecting our water sources, in terms of improving on our ecosystems. And that lack of the link, just understanding that there's a correlation between the two, is in itself dangerous, because then we don't change our behavior. So first of all, there's need for behavioral change.
Yeah.
The other one, of course, is the fact
I
that
think the behavioral change is in which levels? In my opinion, I would think it would be in two levels.
yes,
The population and, of course, those in charge of disseminating this information. It's bad behavior that
Yes.
if we are in charge of disseminating information that can be helpful to the population and we do not do that accurately, I have a feeling there is also behavioral change that needs to be happening there. Do you see it in that way as well?
absolutely. I mean, it's first of all from the local communities or the people who do the actual depletion, but at the same time, policymakers do need to make that link and do need to communicate that link in terms of policy decisions and practical decisions that are made in implementing these policy decisions. So it's at those two levels that really we need to be aware, to make aware.
Where does the buck stop? Is it with the population or with the policymakers and the decision makers?
Well, this is I would say a joint responsibility. It is a joint responsibility because at a certain point, I know that policymakers could get into this, which is important, but enforcement alone is not enough. It is important that every person actually has a value that they are attached to nature, that they are attached to the environment. That is what will be sustainable.
All right, that is what would be sustainable. It's a joint venture. Let's bring in Stewart here, because Stewart, you've been listening to the conversation from the time we started the program, and we're looking at the current situation, whether bad or good, and we've mentioned the real problem that we're facing in terms of depletion, and we've mentioned the opportunities or alternatives that are there to solve these particular problems. Where do you stand in this conversation when it comes to restoration and the role of both the public and the policymakers or those who are responsible for implementation of these things?
Well, Eugene, I think this clearly is a bit of a complex issue, but I think it's actually more than just information. I think we've actually got to get down to the heart of the matter, that people have to benefit from resources. They have to be sure that they can actually gain some benefit. If you invest, you can receive something from it. And the situation in many countries has been that rights over natural resources are unclear. Now, I think actually one of the very encouraging things you've seen here in Rwanda is the land registration process, and people now actually know they have a bit of land. They know that it's demarcated, they know it's gazetted, they know that they actually have got redress to claim rights on it. And that also allows people to invest in their land. But I think it's quite easy to condemn small farmers who are struggling to make a living, pay school fees, deal with healthcare issues, when they don't know day to day if the investments they're making they'll actually be able to see the benefits from. So I think actually one of the fundamental issues is actually making sure that people who manage the land can actually get a sense that they will get a benefit from that. Then, and I think this is where the policymakers are responsible, we need to be able to put good policies in place so that we can act, because there's not just individual benefits that come from natural resources, there's societal benefits. For example, just this past weekend, I spent time up in Rubavu and actually visited the Sibaya River. That river, the source of intake for the city of Rubavu, the siltation, the cloudiness, what's called scientifically the turbidity, is 60 times above what the minimum legal requirements are for drinking water in Rwanda. So I think the fact is, obviously, that is a need that policy makers need to step up and say, one farmer can't supply that. That requires collective action, and therefore that requires good regulation by policymakers. So I think part of this thing is you need carrots, and some of those carrots, I think, are very fundamental, like making sure that people know they have the rights to land and resources that they invest in. Other carrots can be then some additional support. Vincent mentioned payment for ecosystem services, but also you need good, sensible regulation so that societal benefits are also generated and maintained and looked after.
Right. There's a key point that was made earlier on how we have failed to connect the importance of forests when it comes to the other benefits that we get in our lives in terms of the water, in terms of food, and we've failed to look at forests in that sense. In this particular situation, we link with what Stewart says about the carrots. Wouldn't it look like we seem to want or have to, bribe, in quotes, people to do what they need to do? That is, protect the forest, protect the environment. When you talk of the carrots that we need to give, the incentives that we need to give, would you look at it in that sense as well?
It's not really bribing or what, but it's like paying back their efforts. And I think we need to really understand there are a lot of efforts for those people who are upstream. They are trying to protect their planting, and there are also those who are downstream who are benefiting from those services. So the challenge now is to try to estimate those services which are getting out from the protection of the ecosystem, and try to convert those benefits into the economic and see how we can go back those efforts which are being deployed upstream. So it's not really, it's like paying back those efforts and recompensating and making sure that they really get paid for efforts they are putting in protecting their ecosystem.
Today, are we doing that?
No, we are looking at it, and for Rwanda especially, we are thinking especially to see how we can come up with the payment for ecosystem service. And we are glad we are talking together, forestry and water, in terms of policy. It's a very good development, and we are looking to see how, in terms of planning, in terms of involving the communities, we can also be involved in that process, especially the private company, which are those downstream who are benefiting from those services, and see how they can just pay back a little bit, paying nurseries, educating those upstream, planting more trees, and it is possible it will happen.
Yeah. Because when I ask you that is because I'm trying to think of it in this sense, that the longer we take to come up with that particular plan, the more we delay the efforts of restoration of our forests.
Yes, sure. We have to.
So can they point a finger at you and say you are the ones who are delaying the process?
No. Of course, we are pushing so that you can come up with the implementation, quick implementation.
Are you pushing enough?
Yeah, we are pushing. We are discussing. We are making sure that even this opportunity of discussing, having the celebration of forestry water on the same time, it's a kind of creating awareness, involving the private sector. You know, this morning we were talking about private sector. You are not here to make benefits only. You have to conserve. You also have to pay. You have to little bit. So we have, of course, we have to create legal instruments. We have to come up with legal instruments. We have to come up with the costing and make sure that the cost is really the right cost to be paid back to those who are upstream.
You mentioned of the legal frameworks, and I'll bring you back on board, Honorable Jessica. On a regional level, we understand of the forestry bill. And of course, he mentions the fact that we need to have such kind of legal instruments that are, they back our efforts, they create a roadmap for how we can do these things and achieve them. But there's been concern on the pace that it usually takes to come up with such kind of legal instruments. And today when we speak of challenges of deforestation, it's not just a Rwandan problem or a Kenyan problem. The impact is shared because we're now in a regional level. So how do we ensure that we speed up some of these things so that we start working as fast as it's possible to restore this depleted land?
Thank you very much. First of all, we recognize that each of the countries have their national laws, their constitutions, and there are also regulations and guidelines that all countries do have. But we have realized that there is need for harmonization of some of the provisions in these legislations at national level. And there are also gaps that we have identified in some of the legislations. But also there is the question of implementation. A number of our countries have very good laws, but implementing them have become a bit a challenge. And so,
like which country has good laws and the implementation has been had?
If I can give you the example of Uganda, for example. I come from Uganda, and I was a minister in charge of environment in Uganda. We have very good laws, but when it comes to implementation of the forestry law, the National Environment Management Act, it's a very big challenge. We actually had to propose to have an environmental police to be able to follow up on what is happening and, you know, pick on a telephone quickly if there is an issue. But even to implement that has become a challenge. It took a number of years until this environmental police was put in place. You have guidelines for riverbanks, for lake shores, for forest management, but people are not following this up. Wetlands management, you find that in the night, people are bringing maram and pouring into the wetlands. And in 1 week's time, the place is dry. There is no more water here. So there are so many of these challenges. And at night, it's very difficult. Like, for example, there was a time we had to go to see what was happening. And we saw a number of gunmen. And it was a problem. You can easily be killed. So we said, oh, if this is the case, then we need environmental police that are also armed. And if it is, it means war, let it be war.
For the sake of the
environment. For the sake of the environment. So, I mean, it has gone to a level that it is really very difficult to implement some of this legislation. But with sensitization, with the involvement of the communities and individuals who can pick a phone to say, oh, we have cited some illegal activities here, then you can now act. And that awareness creation should be increasing, Now, at the regional level, of course, we have the treaty for the establishment of the East African Community, and Chapter 19, Article Article 114 clearly specifies what each of the partner states and the communities, the people, the citizens of East African community should do in order to protect our forests. Now, we realize that we have this, we have the forestry policy, we have the national laws, but they are not enough. So we have drafted a regional law that is currently under consultations at various levels, so that we can have a regional East African Forestry Act. And once we have an act which will have harmonized all the positions at the different country levels, then we'll be able to implement something that is uniform, something that is agreeable, something that we have created awareness about in the region.
Right, but what is the guarantee that we will be able to achieve this if on national level, you know, individual partner states, we have been unable to implement certain laws that we have? Now we are talking regional, countries which are sovereign with their own laws.
Yes.
How are we going to implement this?
No, you see, the more we come together, the more awareness we create. And the more we share synergies and examples and what is going on here and there, and we're able to move together, to work together. I think that way we'll be able to reduce some of the challenges.
Right.
And earlier on you had asked the question of what is the guarantee that we'll get this law out soon. We have also identified challenges in terms of development of regional legislation that have been taking a bit long. And we have put strategies in place to shorten the process, but also to involve the people. We have come up with a consultative dialogue framework where we reach out to the different stakeholders and we have strategies of how we can quickly bring the different stakeholders together, consult with them, discuss with them, and get recommendations from them, which we include in the regional legislation.
So it's going to take a short
This will take short. In fact, for a bill, it would take about 3 months for each country, for the head of state and the national processes to go through the accent to a bill. And that would take like 3 times 5 or 3 times 6 now would take a bit long, almost 2 years. But now, recently, the summit has agreed to our proposal that once we have passed a bill at the East African Legislative Assembly level, let that bill be circulated, the approved bill be circulated to all the countries, to the heads of state. They do the necessary consultations, and in their immediate next sitting, they should be able to sign this bill, ratify the bill in one go, rather than sending it to each country and waiting for one country to finish and then another and another. So we have put in place measures that will shorten the process.
If the process takes long, ordinary citizens can petition.
They can petition. We
come
have
and say you guys are taking too long to pass this important.
We actually have a court. The East African Court of Justice is open to every East African. And the court also has registries at all the capital cities of the partner states. So citizens, if they are not happy, they can go and register a case against either their government or the Secretary General. We've received so many of these cases, but I'm not encouraging people to go to court.
I'll be heading there. If it takes long, I assure you.
Unnecessarily, but let's try to go through the means that we have put in place, the consultative processes that are there. Our doors are open. You can first come to us and find out what exactly is happening. Why the delay? Why is this not taking place? So if you are not satisfied, then you can go to court. Because the number of people who have also gone to court and they have lost cases. And they have to pay. And it's very difficult for ordinary citizens also to pay.
I hope you're also not scaring them to not go to court.
No, I'm encouraging them to come to dialogue with us. I think
Awesome.
that's the most important thing.
Very important. We take a very short break, and then when we come back, we move the conversation forward, especially when it comes to some of the commitments we've made. It's now 2016. we have 2020 staring at our eyes. How far have we gone in these implementations, all right? And of course, I'll be reading some of the comments that are coming through. I have Rutarindwa on Twitter, and you're asking, what challenge will East African Forestry Act bring to us if at national level the implementation is still a little null? I think it's the same question that I'd asked earlier on. Keep tweeting, talk to us, tell us what your thoughts are on these issues of forest restoration. And of course, we are talking about the issue of forests for life, and we are live. All right? See you after the break.
So Natasha, are we cornering our teachers? Are we being unfair to them?
At the end of the day, Fiona also mentions that the more you show them this condom, the more you're opening up their minds to having sex. But do you feel well represented? Do you think the media issues are well taken to the table when it comes to advocacy? How do we convince them and say that we shut it down because you exceeded the limits? The word conservation looks just complicated, but how do we simplify this?
What role do our schools play then? And the people around our children, what role can they play in order to avoid these children becoming a menace in the society?
Yes. Caroline, you just want to sound moral, but you're just not accepting the reality on the ground.
Well, I want to sound moral and encourage it and practice it.
This is an EA production.
And welcome back. Thank you so much for still being with us. We are talking about forests for life, and of course we are looking at the importance of forests in, of course, giving us life. And we're looking at the issues of water, their role in ensuring that we have clean water, their role in ensuring that we have food, and of course a sustainable livelihood. Of course, you can take part in the conversation, and all you need to do is tweet us at Debate411, or you can tweet me directly at Eugene Nangwe, and definitely I'll be able to sample your views. And of course, this year's theme for International Day of Forests is Forests are key to the planet's supply of fresh water, which is essential for life. But of course, when we were talking here, Honorable Rio, you told us about your case in Uganda, where you had to come up with a police unit, an environment police unit, and the rigorous fights here and there in ensuring that people take care of this forest and take care of the water catchment areas. From this explanation as to how far we need to go to ensure that people do the right thing, do you feel that what the theme says is how people see these forests? Stewart, do you think that we have really come to understand forests in this sense, that they are important to providing us with essential livelihood?
Yes and
if
no.
we have to be prefected, told by a gun or told you don't touch there, don't go there. Yeah. Do we understand this?
So, yes and no. I think, I mean, if we have to put in place armed guards around an asset that should benefit the community, you can say the community's doing something wrong or the policy's wrong. And we've seen this many, many times, that actually what happens is that policies, maybe well-intentioned, say this is a national asset, therefore we need to protect it, therefore people who rely on this, no, you stay out. And the fact is, and immediately you create conflict on that. I worked many years in Ghana. In fact, my wife's family's from Ghana, and there all natural growing trees are vested in the presidency, which means that if you've got a tree growing on your land, a natural tree growing on your land, somebody else government authority can give it away, a logger can come up, harvest it, and you don't get anything. In fact, often what happens in that situation, in cocoa farming areas, there's damage to the cocoa crop, they don't get any compensation as well. So I think we've got to look at this. Is this, you know, if we need to take sort of draconian action, is it the farmer or the community that's wrong, or the policy that's wrong? But I think this is a debate and a discussion that we have been now having for, certainly for my professional lifetime, for 30 years. And I think we actually are learning. I think the good news is that you actually do see many countries where there is real progress. I'll just give you a small example. Across the border in northern Tanzania, in Shinyanga, in fact, around in the mid-1980s, just when I was actually starting work in Tanzania myself, the government actually put forward a very progressive policy of working with communities there, and this is in quite dry areas like Akagera. They restored over 500,000 hectares of forest. In addition to that, another 1.5 million hectares of agroforestry, all driven by local effort, all driven by incentivizing local communities that they had something to gain, rather than trying to police local communities that they should stop being naughty by destroying the environment. So I think there's a real challenge here. I think we are learning this. There are lots of good examples, and that's certainly one thing we're trying to do with forest landscape restoration and the Bond Challenge, is to actually create these communities of practice, communities of learning, be able to support efforts like Jessica talks about for the East African community, so we can see harmonized approaches really building on the best lessons. So in sort of summary, I'm definitely an optimist. I think the answer is both yes and no, but we are learning, and I think there is real opportunity now over the next several years to see more restoration, and there's lots of places on the planet we can point to where we already have had that experience.
Right, and this brings us to the issue of even the interest in being part of these kind of conversations and keeping them alive. We are talking about forests, and of course probably most of people who are watching us right now are living in the cities, and they will tell you, that doesn't really concern me. But in the end, we are the ones who are buying this charcoal that is coming from the villages out there.
Becoming more expensive.
Right. So what do we do so that we can involve the whole chain and ensure that everybody is part of this conversation? We all understand the importance of our forests, and we will keep off from them in terms of cutting them and depleting them.
I think that's very important, especially when you are looking at the multiple benefits from the forest. And we need to, of course, see those benefits which we need to understand, see those benefits in terms of the water, the cost it goes to the water for treating it to get the clean water, the benefits you are getting from other benefits in terms of like the bee or the other products which you can get from the forest. So all those benefits, once people they understand the cost, how it came in, then they really will understand the role of the forest. And sometimes people they don't understand where the products are coming from. They don't know the efforts which are put in place to make sure to treat that water, to get that water, and they don't value the origin of that products they are getting. Hence, they don't give the right value to the forest. So there is that information which has to be provided, and we need to see. Share information, monitoring it, and understand, make sure that those who are using also they understand really where the product is coming from.
But in the real case, what happens is I'm paying for the bill. I don't care. You provide me the service.
I think for city dwellers, they have a very big role to play in contributing to conservation of our forests. One is that those who can afford should actually switch to alternative sources of power for cooking, like using of gas, but also to practice energy-saving practices, like using energy-saving stoves, so you'd use the charcoal, whatever you bought, a little longer than just wasting it.
Yeah.
Wasteful life is very, very bad.
Yeah.
And also, they can contribute in a way that they can also invest in plantation forest, because these plantation forests are very few. And we actually, if you have a plantation forest, you can have your license, you can actually grow trees for firewood or charcoal. And it
Specifically
is
for
your
that.
business,
Yeah.
yes, it is your business, without having to go and destroy the natural ecosystem.
Yeah.
And if we can invest in that, then it's a contribution.
Yeah.
I think it's a very short-sighted view for a city dweller or an urban dweller to say the forests are out there, they're not my concern.
Yeah.
The very fact is, again, as I said, last weekend I was up in Rubavu. The reason why Rubavu's got clean drinking water is because there is a good treatment plant that can take water that is got a very dirty, a high turbidity, and through an expensive process, clean it so that people have got clean drinking water. Somebody's got to pay for that, and that's the taxpayer. Yeah, you have got other You have other examples, and I'll give you New York City. New York City does not need to treat its drinking water. Why? Because they pay the owners of forest in the Catskill Mountains to maintain water, to maintain forest cover, which actually is a effective and natural treatment. You think what would have happened if we had had a similar arrangement in Gishwati? Instead of Gishwati being cleared, it could have been a Catskill. So I think I think there are real opportunities that both the negative effects of degradation reach the city dwellers, and it reaches them in their pocket as well, because as taxpayers they will have to pay for treatment of and remediation of land degradation.
You
want to jump on that? Yes.
Which was talked about earlier in terms of opportunities. I think when we talk about the people and ourselves, I mean, there's already a divide there.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is in terms of how do local communities who are dependent on, say, foreign products be able to maintain or preserve or protect trees, for this matter of forests. I think the concept of participatory governance, which is much more an issue that is part of the new opportunities that we are actually picking up, is quite important, so that people get to know their rights, also get to know their responsibilities, and be able to protect from not from a point of, I was just talking about the limitations of using enforcement.
Yes.
It's very limited in terms of the long term. I mean, in the short term, yes, we do need to sometimes use enforcement.
Yes.
But for the long term, in terms of a sustainable way, we do need participatory governance, where citizens actually believe that they do own these resources, and that they do have a right to them, but also they have responsibilities, and they do share the benefits.
Yeah.
That's just what I wanted to add.
That should be the key thing.
Yeah.
I'll be jumping in again to just bring back our audience on the show. We have a question here which is very key, pertinent here. Are there programs to sensitize people about the benefits of preserving forests? Reading from the book can't be enough. This is what he says. And it's important to bring that question back to you guys, because we tend to have a lot of campaigns around the international days of these events or these issues. But after that, it's business as usual. We are just there silent and all that. So take us through the programs that you have for sensitization of people, and how much do you spend, and what plans do you have, and how do you even execute that?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying we have enough to sensitize the population in terms of benefits for from the forest.
What is stopping us to have enough?
Yeah, well, you need to design, of course, those programs. You need to come up with a good strategy in terms of communication.
So this is a job opportunity for those who are good at designing. They should come and talk to you.
Really, it's a good opportunity. Make sure that there is a straight program which is targeting the communities, and really, we need to come up with those programs and target the community, target all those people, the engineers, policymakers, in terms of really showing the benefits.
So that's what we're lacking.
Yeah, sure.
What
okay,
else?
well, we have done, but I'm not saying it's completely enough. We still have to continue doing it, more doing it, and implement all those programs for communication.
What of expenses in terms of just running radio adverts, TV adverts,
these are the programs which are done at the highest level, but we need to go to the community level also, make sure that there is a discussion, there is interaction, not only being at Serena Hotels, but also going down to the community.
Are you doing that?
Yeah, we are doing it.
Is it enough?
It's not enough. Yeah. But
so what do we need to do it enough?
We have to keep going on, keep working together.
Yeah.
Yes.
She comes to your rescue.
I think this, let this be our responsibility, all of us, including you.
I play my role.
You don't have to invite me only here when it is the World Forestry Day.
Yeah. If I only see you during this day, what else do I do?
But also, let's also involve the artists, music, dance, school children, curriculum review, so that these issues are discussed like every day.
As we leave this place, is this what we will do? Because I want us to make commitments.
Yes, I think we need to do all this.
We will do this.
We have to do this.
We'll involve everybody on
board. We have to involve everybody. We have to call upon everybody to come up and, act some skits. Present these facts in a manner that will be easily understood by everyone.
That they relate with, in manners that they relate with.
Because I really don't know how the Banyarwanda, for example, would understand this. Someone locally here should be able to do that better. Someone in the communities, in the village, who really picks these issues should be able to relay it in a manner that they can understand at that level. At various levels, we all have to be involved. And I have to state that even at a higher level, even policymakers, some of them do not understand these issues.
So we need some of them,
human nature is really bad. We are always driven by economic quick gains. We don't look at the economic gains in future. We don't look at the other aspects of how we benefit from something. So we need to address that holistically. So everybody must be sensitized.
Super. I like that idea. I like that approach. Collective responsibility.
Yes.
But of course, everybody has to play a role.
Yes.
Awesome. We have the launch that was done today, and it was the launch of the Landscape Restoration Hub, which Rwanda is hosting. Do we feel that this will be part of that particular process of supporting in the awareness creation process, Stewart?
Absolutely. I mean, certainly as someone who works for IUCN, I hope that is the case. That's what we want to do. We've talked already that we need to be able to get information into the hands of decision makers, into the hands of communities, into the hands of city dwellers. We need to be able to raise awareness. We also, I think, need to be able to present that degradation is a real problem. It's been difficult to actually get degradation onto the agenda. It's a Cinderella issue. It's sort of invisible. People want to talk about, okay, productive land or productive forest, but there is a large stock of degraded land, up to 2 billion hectares globally. Now we can wring our hands and say this is a real problem, that what can we do about it? Or we can say, in that land, in that degraded land, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to restore productivity, to restore biodiversity, to actually keep soil on that land rather than have it flow down the rivers. So I think that's one of the things we need to do, and that's certainly what what the hub wants to do, is to work with people like Vincent, to work with the EAC and Jessica, so that we can actually provide real information and required information to help improve decision making.
Yeah, so that means if next year we come and sit back today in such a situation and we still raise the issue of lack of awareness, we will have totally failed. We would have totally failed.
Yes, that is true.
So next year, this is what we are trying to say.
I I do hope that this show here will have a big impact
Yes.
and a multiplier impact
Yes.
itself.
Yes.
But we should be having more of this.
Right.
And maybe next time also we should bring someone from the community.
Yes. To be on board.
Yes, to be
To
here.
share with us all
To
this.
share with us how they are benefiting directly
Yeah.
from the forests,
Yeah.
or how they are not benefiting,
Yeah.
and what needs
And what
to be
needs
done.
to be done in terms
Yes.
of improving the situation.
Yes.
I have someone here who says actually that he needs that kiraka. Kiraka is that opportunity from you. I hope when he knocks your doors and brings their papers, you will definitely welcome them in and help them support you. Let's talk of an issue which is really important. And of course, when we talk of forests, land, water, very, very sensitive resources. And this is where people fight. You know, brothers and families stand against each other. And we have sort of had to find a balance in between this. We have the population growth. We have the issues of development. We want to have a city out of, you know, and we sort of get this temptation to cut down these trees for us to pave our road or pave way for our road creation. How do we deal with this, Honorable Jessica?
Well,
So that we have a balance where there's an equilibrium here.
Yes, of course, it's really a very big challenge of population growth, of urbanization. Urbanization rate is really high
Yes.
in our region. It's a good sign, but it's also a big challenge that requires timely action in terms of fiscal planning for
Yes.
this growing population, good infrastructure,
Yeah.
because if we have our roads and we tarmac them,
Yes.
then we reduce on soil erosion. But if we don't tarmac our roads, that's an issue. But tarmacking roads is also expensive, and we have to deal with the issues of corruption,
Yeah.
especially where you're giving out tenders. These tenders should be able to do exactly what they're supposed to do. The roads should last longer than they're lasting now. So it's not just a question of whether we are doing this infrastructure, but how we are doing it.
In a sustainable manner.
In a
it has to be,
sustainable manner.
yeah.
How we are able to build condominium flats for our people. So our housing policies need to address the issue of urbanization and rural urban migration. But also we should be able to create growth centers in different towns, in different places, planned growth centers, so that people can be absorbed there. But we also have to create jobs for people in these centers, so that people are involved in a number of service activities, in white-collar jobs, rather than, you know, come to the city and they have nothing to do, and then at night they go to do these illegal activities that we're talking about, that requires police to follow them up at night. All these are illegal activities.
Yeah.
So we can actually address this in a holistic manner, understanding the issues and understanding our roles. Urban authorities need to understand their roles. District authorities need to understand their roles. The private sector needs to understand their roles, and they need to identify the business opportunities that this challenge brings. You know, every challenge has an opportunity for investment.
Yeah.
So for business people out there, they really always have to look out at how best can I solve this problem by making money out of it.
Yeah. But in most cases, private sector has always said, we are going to jump where there is return in investment. And they'll tell you, if it doesn't bring money, you will not expect to see us there. Luther?
It's because they've not planned very well.
Yeah. I think...
In closing, actually.
Back to the point that Honorable Jessica just talked about,
Yeah.
the issue is planning. I think one of the things that we need to do is to use evidence.
Yeah.
We need to use information.
Yeah.
We need to use statistics to guide our planning. I think planning in a vacuum without really looking at the impact of these trends means that we'll not be solving the real issues. And so when you look at back to the issue you've just raised about the private sector.
Yes.
The private sector itself is a big contributor to both degradation, but it can also be a big contributor to restoration. It's just the lens that they need to use to make those decisions will make them, do their business, but in a manner that is, using the current word today, green.
Yeah.
That is both useful to they as entrepreneurs, but at the same time to the wider community.
Yeah. Let's share the remaining 2 minutes to give our way forward, parting remarks. And for you, I would like to just raise this question that has just come right now. What are the best opportunities for investment in Rwanda's water sector? And I think this is where now we need to interest the investors, those private sector people, as we close. What are those areas?
I just wanted to go back again to share with you what we are doing,
very briefly,
especially for Sebia catchment, where we are preparing the catchment plan.
Yeah.
Those plans which are based on the hydrological unit, which are taking into consideration all issues in terms of land, in terms of forestry, in terms of land use, and in terms of investment. So we are working towards that, coming up with that plan, integrated the plan, and we are working to make sure that we come up with a plan of investment which are taking into consideration all those aspects and which are sustainable, which will be contributing in effective manner of protecting the whole catchment. So the plan is there. In terms of opportunities for water, there are so many opportunities. If you connect water with the tourism, especially for Lake Kivu, connected to tourism, production for power from methane gas, those are opportunities which people should grab and see.
Jump and run away with. Stewart, closing remarks as we go.
One thing I think that really is important is we need to see better coordination between government ministries and government agencies. The private sector respond to signals and to regulation. If one signal is, we will incentivize you to produce as much agriculture as possible, of course they'll clear land, of course they won't worry about soil loss. So I think one of the things is we need to see actually coordinated land use policies that actually get Minirena, Minagri, others actually working together. We need to have, if you want to see this balance that you talked about, Eugene, we need to start to see that with better coordination. One very quick final example is agroforestry. Agroforestry could deliver an awful lot to the small farmers of Rwanda. We know that, the science is out there. But at the minute, it falls between two stools. It's not entirely Minagri, it's not entirely Minirena. We need to start to see coordination between government agencies to really get those synergies that get good land management and get the sort of balance that you were talking about.
Right. Thank you so much. Of course, it's time to leave. But definitely, as you challenged us, we need to see more of this conversation. And I always say that the conversation doesn't end here. It always continues. And it has to go on social media platforms. And of course, we will keep answering some of the questions that have been raised out here. And of course, I'm hoping that we will still meet again to do a recap of some of the things that we've talked about here. We will play our role.
We congratulate Rwanda for hosting the hub, and we know that this will contribute greatly.
Awesome.
We should actually say, I should say, Rwanda is a leader. I travel the globe, and we always use Rwanda as an example. So I think that we should actually recognize just what progress has been made
On behalf of Rwanda, I take the compliment. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Asante sana. Thank you for being on the program. Thank you for being a part of it. And of course, for those who have just been watching in silence, Asante for your time and just for checking out. And those who have been tweeting us and sending us questions and reactions, thank you so much for always being a part of this particular conversation. Let's keep talking at Debate 411, at I'm Eugene Anangwe. Let's keep the conversation going. As always, I'm Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye.